Don't give up. Just don't give up. I think a lot of people give up. They can do it. I know it's hard, and push through the suck. Push through the suck. You can do it. You can push through the suck, because I think it's worth it. It's worth it if you really want it.
Today's guest may be a traditional real estate broker with timeless values, but leading a 150 million sales team and embracing unconventional marketing, that's anything but old school. Let's welcome Andra Arnold here to the call.
Hi.
Andra, great to be here with you.
How are you?
I'm doing great. So you're located in the Guelph area as your servicing area, so just outside of Toronto. Really great to be here with you. I know you have a really great story there that we're going to be diving into, and you have a real strength in the marketing side. So we're going to be talking about that and how you scaled up your team. But maybe we can go back and if you could share a little bit of the backstory and how you got into real estate.
Okay, so I was a stay-at-home mom, but stay-at-home moms, one of the hardest jobs, though, I have to say. So busy with two girls at the time. I was president of the play school. I was on parent council. I taught fitness classes. There was lots of things that kept me busy while I was home, being like the mayor of the street with my kids. And it was about my husband and I were having a conversation, and he's like, you need to get a job, but not because I needed a job, because I had a very important job, but my brain was going too fast, and sometimes it gets you into trouble. So my husband's uncle was a broker and owner at the time, and he's like, you're going to be a real estate agent. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay. And I took the courses, and I started my first year, and I thought, because I knew everybody, I was going to be amazing at it, and I was terrible at it. And it wasn't easy. And I thought it was going to be, because, you know everybody, realtors know everybody, they aren't working that hard. And I realized how difficult real estate was actually. And I decided either I was going to give it the same as I gave everything else in my life, which I like to do well at. I just wanted to be the best that I can be, not the best, but the best that I can be. And I decided I was going to be a buying agent, and that turned into me working for many years on my own. And here we are. I had started a team in 2020, just before COVID. And I think that's it.
So what does the team actually look like right now? How many team members do you have, agents and support staff?
So agents, we have 7, including myself. And we have a full-time stager, a client care specialist, a full-time administrator, and then a part-time administrator at the moment. So still, like, I'm still improved. Like, I'm a very hands-on. Like, I still am doing a lot of things a lot of people don't want to do, but I still love doing. So I still do them.
Well, whatever you're doing, you're very successful. It's phenomenal. And so when did you start? What year was that when you got into real estate?
Just before the financial crisis, the 2008, an excellent time to start. It was, it had been a very strong market, and then it was tough. But I also think I didn't really realize how serious a job this was until I got into it.
And can you elaborate? You had said your husband said you need to get a job, and you said your mind was working. Can you elaborate on what was that? So were you just like outperforming in what you were doing before, or was it just like your mind was going and you needed to, do something? What was that?
There were, like, when like you're too busy, like I'm too busy of a human to be just like at home, and the girls.
Okay.
So like, so my youngest, she was in school full time, and I, like, when they were home, like, there was so much to do, right? Like, I live, eat, and breathe 24/7 when you have small humans at home, right? And that was just like my whole life. But when they're going to school during the day and you don't have the distraction of them being home with you, then you need to be doing something. So what do they say? Idle hands are the devil's tools. Isn't that something like there's like
something like that? Yeah,
yeah,
I think you got it. Okay.
Be busy.
Yeah. So your husband knew you really well and knew you'd probably do something very big because you were just so active. Now, which is phenomenal that you had that support, and I'm sure he's support. Like, how's it been for you through the years? Did he ever think that you'd be this successful?
No. Like
Well,
I
it's like,
but
oh wow,
I think it's like, so I've been with my husband since I was 17. I met
mm,
him on my 17th birthday. We've been married for 29 years, and so that's 33 years we've been together. It's a long time. That's like
yeah.
a couple lifetimes. Um, you grow together, right? So I think there's been some different seasons while this has been going on in our lives. So I think when he got his, because he's on my team
Yeah.
now. And when he got his license, he told me, he's like, I think this is pretty easy. This is before I had a team. So I didn't actually he got his license while I was still an individual agent. And he's like, it's pretty easy. All you do is talk all day long, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, if you think it's that easy, I'm not helping you for the first year. And then he speaks a very different tune now. And he loves being on the team, and we have I have this team and he's on it. But yeah, I don't think people really realize how hard this job is, or how dedicated you really need to be in this job, I think is what it
Why do you
is.
think that is? Because that's actually a pretty big myth, I think, that's out there. It's like, there's you see an agent walk in and they bring an offer and they walk out, and all of a sudden you're cutting a $50,000 commission check, right? And there's context to that check. It goes to two different brokerages, and then they both take their cut, and then from there it's divvied up. But why do you think that is so prevalent out there? And what do you think it was that your husband and yourself, when you got into the business, what do you think changed maybe from that early perspective, that it's easy to, wow, this is something completely different? What do you think it is the underlying cause there?
I think it's sometimes it's the timing of the market, right? So when I got my license, there had been a relatively big boom, and people that I liked them fine. I thought they were great, but it was just so interesting that they were selling so many houses. They hadn't been in the business that long, and they weren't really dedicated to their craft. I think that that's what it is. So we saw that, like, COVID is a really great example of us seeing that as well. Like, a lot of people have come and gone. There was a major influx of agents at that time, and a ton of people came in. You put aside, like, the market also can allow for that to happen. And I think it might have been that it was such a difficult time when I got my license, and I did struggle. That's where it changed. Like, I do think people perceive what we do. Our barrier to entry is quite low.
Hmm.
And so, you take 6 courses and you can sell houses. Like, you 18, write some tests. And I think that's not really what we do. It's not what we do. Right. So, like, we provide so many services. Like, the amount of time that you invest, the knowledge, the number of transactions, like, what is it, 10,000 hours to become an expert? So how many hours have you got? I'm sure you got way more than 10,000 hours. Is it 50, 60,000 hours?
Well, we both started at the same time, so I think we could probably both throw out similar amount of hours, right? I'm sure we're both working a lot, and I think that's where, through the years, especially at the beginning, like, you got to really put in. It's like 7 days a week just to put food on the table. And I want to go back to your very beginning. You said it was a early struggle, and
Yeah.
so what was it that was? Can you take us through that early struggle and how you overcame it?
So what had happened was, like, I can remember the day. My husband and I bought a house that we really, at the time, we really couldn't have afforded. I wasn't doing super great in real estate, but we really wanted to live on the street. And that's another story for another time. But we bought the house that we wanted to move into. Things were just, like, okay, and we had been in for, I think, 3 weeks. It was my birthday, and my husband had a work accident, and he butterflied his hand on a table saw. And I was like, I'm not going to swear, but I'm like, I better do this or get off the pot.
All
So I
right.
had done well in my old job, and I'm like, either I need to really commit to this and give the effort that I've given in everything else that I've done. So any other time I've had a job, like, I really do commit to what I'm doing, but I don't think I had taken it as seriously as I really needed to. And I was like, Andra, you better do this. So I did some self-reflection. I actually sat down with my broker owner at the time and another female agent that I really respected at the time, and asked them what they didn't like about me and what they could change, like what I should change. Cause I was like,
Wow.
what is it that I'm doing wrong? And it was tough, right? Like it was tough to hear the hard truths that I needed to hear. And I took those literally, and I was like, okay, like let's get on with it. I decided I was going to be a buying agent. I wasn't, because everybody's like list to last. And at the time I was like, there wasn't a ton of buying agents, like what is that, 17, 18 years ago. Like you'd have a team and maybe you'd have a buying agent on the team, but there weren't a lot of people just focusing on buying. And I was like, okay. So I signed up for Market Leader at the time, or whatever the online lead system it was, and I went into debt. And I was like, I'm gonna pick up buyers and I'm gonna be a really great buying agent. And so I really focused on providing the best service and understanding the school districts and matching people and really reading them and understanding their personalities, and just getting really great at understanding the houses with them and understanding people with their houses. And then it just kept rolling, because buyers will eventually be sellers, but sellers are not always buyers, right? So yeah,
That
that was,
that's a great story. So good. And so you were introduced to your other self. Napoleon Hill talks about this in his book, Think and Grow Rich. He talks about like there's something that comes up where it's like you have to make a decision. Is this something that I'm going to be going all in on? And so it could be, a lot of times it's like comes down to financial, or maybe there's something like a health scare, or I've heard like there's a separation in the past, and like all of a sudden this lady had 3 kids and she just had to produce.
yeah,
And that's such a, if you could just package that up and just give it to, if you could sell that, that'd be such a great thing. But what's interesting is it's hard. And the hard is what helps you grow to be able to, develop and take it to the next level. But I love how you invested and you went into debt,
yeah, I did. I was
right?
like you better try. Like you got to really try, right?
It's like we're going all in, honey. We're going.
Oh
It's
no,
like,
he
yeah,
didn't. He wasn't part of it. I was like, I did this all on my own. I was like, because he at the time, I'm like, I'm gonna do this.
yeah.
I didn't ask for help. I'm like, and I was like adamant I was doing it, because I did.
And
It took me a little while, but I
what that was beautiful. That, I mean, you loved your husband and you wanted to support, and he needed that help, and you were like, I'm going to do that. And I think that's that's really powerful. I remember back when I started that there was this course, and I was struggling as well. And we started similar time. I was 2007, and yeah, the market was the market tanked, and all I remember is other agents saying, it's this big financial crisis, and I'm like, well, I just need to put food on the table. So I don't think I really understood the to the, fortunately in Canada we were pretty good compared to the U.S., but I kind of put blinders on and put my head down. But it was at the beginning we struggled, like we maxed out our credit cards, $10,000 in credit card debt, and I remember I was at our office meeting, and there was this trainer that came in, and he was doing a 9-week accountability course. And then he came to the end of the presentation and he said, and it's going to be $500. Oh, I'm like, well, we have $500 in our bank account, I thought to myself, but I'm like, I need this course. I need some direction. Cause I was running real fast. I was going round and round, but I didn't know kind of, what to do. And I remember taking their $500, getting a check, and I drove to the trainer's house and I said, before I give you this, I just want to check. Do you think this is really going to help me? Because this is my last $500. And he looked at his wife. I still remember, like it was yesterday. He looked at his wife and he looked back at me and he said, yeah, Mark, this is going to help you. And I was like, gave him the check. I drove off, and I remember telling Joanna, she's like, she was pregnant at the time too, right? She's like, that's her last 500. And she supported me through that, and she just knew it. But It's so interesting. I'm not sure how it is for you, Andra, but for me, I look back at that time and I get like emotional at a level, and there's like a it's hard to explain, but there's there's like a happiness or a joy that comes from overcoming that. And I think that you look back on the struggles of your life and the overcoming of it is what there's you're proud of it and it was joyful, but there's still like feelings of like hurt going through that. But how is that for you looking back at that time now that you've overcome?
I think what's so funny is I love like when we talk about it, and like I look back and they're proud moments, right? Like
Yeah,
they're
that's
proud,
right.
like they're proud moments. My favorite lines I use for my team, one of them is, "You got to push through the suck," right? Like you got to push through. You're like, we're pushing through the suck,
Yeah,
and sometimes it's
love that.
really gonna suck. But just remember, you're never gonna get someplace great if you don't push through the suck. Like I believe that. I believe when you're growing and you're changing, there's always gonna like I believe in the universe, and I believe in like higher power and all of that. So I it's not suck isn't resistance. Like there's another thing too. Like if you feel something pushing back at you, but the suck is like trudging through it or having to break through the glass. You know you can do it, but you're just like, this is the worst. I don't want to do it, but I know I have to. It's like doing the 200 valuations that nobody asked for and you drop off at people's houses. I don't know if you did that, but I did that. Like I would get like address captures and I would do these CMAs and be like, I can't believe I did that. And then people are like, how do you know all that stuff? I'm like, because I spent every day looking at the hot sheet. And if I didn't have a client, I was making up clients and I was dropping stuff off at their house. And sometimes I get people be like, why do you have my address? Or why did you drop this off? And I'm like, it's just like, it was just things you needed to do. Like, yeah, so I don't look back. I look back and being like, oh yeah, it was hard. Like it was really hard. And I know then people don't see the hard, right? Like they see
Yeah.
the success that like they just look at you and be like, oh, I'm gonna be like you one day. And I'm like, I don't think you want to do what I
Yeah.
did to get here. I'm pretty sure you don't.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. If you go back, if you were to do it again, would you go through it again, knowing what you went through? Yeah, I think the answer would be yes. But I'm just like going through what we went through. I man, that there was a lot there. But that's so interesting because that's where if you don't go through the hard, you don't grow. And yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about it like there's a year ago. I was driving, and I'm just like, I feel like a different person now. And it comes to that point in your career where you overcome so many different challenges. You look back at who you were at the beginning and you're like, oh, you're such a sweet little kid, look at you. So like, and now, not that's not to take anything away from the beginner,
Yeah,
because there's beauty in the beginner, and I think the beginner has some competitive advantage, right, that they have coming into it. But that being said, I'm just referencing myself and the amount of growth that I've been through. And the growth wasn't in the happy times. It was in the challenging times.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And I think like I don't know if you in your career, I've had a lot of really crazy life moments. So like I've had illness and death, and those things have been like pivotal in my growth in my business
Mm,
because I'm a firm believer in being being completely yourself, right?
yeah.
Like I am me here, I'm me at home, I'm like this is me,
Yeah.
and sharing those stories, but having clients that are able to like be able to share that with, right? Like if you're super transparent, not everybody can share themselves, right, with about those things, but
Hmm.
I will say like those struggles and still being able to build my career have been things. Those are the things I think have been the most pivotal because it's it's made me choose who I'm going to work with
Mm,
too. So
that's
not
really
just
good.
yeah.
Yeah, you know who you are, you know who your values are, and you've stuck with that through all that growth, which is it makes you super attractive, I think, as an agent if you're able to stand in that and not let pride and ego start to creep up.
Well, you can't. Like Like we're not. I get if people get cross. Some people get cross. I'm not a brain surgeon. Like I know what I do is important, but like I'm not saving lives. Like, I'm doing something very important because I know that like for financial reasons, and we've like as agents we're therapists and we support people in lots of like financial like people who are in financial crises, people with death and illness in their family, like they're dealing with a lot of those things, and we support that as
Mm.
well. But at the end of the day, right, like it's remembering like like we all sit to go to the bathroom and we all put our pants on one leg at a time, and like I believe we're put on the earth to serve, and this allows me to do that. I just get to collect a bunch of humans, and I don't know how to. Now I feel like I'm rambling today. I think I'm
It's
just gonna
great because I think that's important is context when you're operating on a day to day. Like as a real estate agent, you're constantly solving problems, right? Or I call them challenges or opportunities, right? But at the end of the day, if you know that, listen, nobody's going to die here. That context I think is helpful, and it's just a whole lot less stressful. And I think the filter that you filter through is exactly what you said. Is just filter them through who I am. I got to do the right thing, and I think you said something before the call that I want to talk a little bit about is the fact that you work for Google reviews, 5-star reviews and experiences, right? And I think that ultimately, if you keep top of mind that your reputation and the end result for the clients, that's like the filter. If you just keep focusing on that, the money will be the byproduct at the end of
100%.
the day.
Yep. And that is our goal. Like how we set our goals every year is by the number of people that we're going to help. That's always been my goal set. So even when I go back, way back to when I was like, I'm going to push and I'm going to do this, wrote down my goals, and I didn't have a coach at the time. He put it in a book. I want to help 25 people this year. So, and then every year it's always been, I want to help more people than I helped last year. So
So
the
good.
numbers have always added,
Yeah.
and and it snowballs, right? Because you build that really strong foundation, and then it's hard to like, and if you continue to work that way, right? If you continue to work that way, like I always pretend like my dad and my mom are watching me, right? Like my mom's in heaven, and my dad, I talk to him a lot, but if my dad caught me not doing what's right for you, oh my gosh, I'd be in so much trouble, right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how I work. So it
Yeah.
makes it pretty easy. So then I'm like, I got to get a 5-star Google review because like I got to do a great job because my mom and dad are watching and they want me to do a really good
That's
job for
so
you.
good. Yeah, that's so good. For me, it's so Jesus Christ for me, and then my wife Joanna is the other one. It's like sometimes there'll be something up in the air, and then I'll tell her the situation at the end of the day, my wife Joanna, and she'll be like within 2 seconds flat, she's like, "Oh, this 100%." And then I'm like, "Well, why?" And she's like, I'm like, "Oh, that's good." She's like, "Oh yeah," so it's good. I think that those filters are good. It just keeps us grounded when we're kind of, when we're in the weeds, so to speak, right? To be able to zoom up and get different perspective there as well. I want to talk a little bit more about the tactics when you started. How did you get business? So you had said that you went and did those evaluations. Um, can you elaborate a little bit how you got the airplane off the ground, so to speak?
So I was not sphere based. I'm not from the city. I'm not from Guelph. I moved here when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. My husband moved. Went to high school here, but I'm a transplant. So I actually did online leads, which 17 years ago was different than now. Like there's so many lead programs, and so, like it's oversaturated. But it wasn't as big a thing way back then. Way back, it's not even that long ago, but it feels like a really long time ago. So that's how I started. And then so there was another a component to it. So part of it was buyer leads. And then you do online evaluations, right? So people have those lead systems now, but back then I get an address capture. So if somebody just typed their address in and they didn't write any information down, I take the address and I do an evaluation for the address, and then I go drop it off at their house. So and I would do that. Like we would do so many a week. I would do as many as I needed to. If I wasn't working with clients at the time, so if I wasn't showing houses and I didn't have a lot to do, that's what I was working on. So I studied the hot sheet and I would do that. Like, and I do open houses. So like all the traditional things. I didn't door knock. I will say I didn't door knock, but I did, like, I made my calls and I used lead system. And at the time, like my talent, which I think I've always had, though, is connecting. So like when I get a lead, I giggle because like I lived in Fort Francis, which is like an 806, and that's not 806, but whatever, the 876 area code. So I got a lead that's an 876, and I'd be like, "Oh, I used to live in Fort Francis." And people are like anytime you can make any association. So it's like a Barrie number. Well, we have a cottage that's like past Barrie, and I'd be like, "Oh, I drive through Barrie all the time." So I try to make more of a
Yeah.
connection with people. So it was that's how I really started. It was online leads and making as much of a connection with somebody that wasn't about real estate. Like, I don't really want to know about real estate. I want to know more about you so that I can do my real estate job. Like, and that's really that's how I still work. Like, I want to know as much about you as I can so that I can do my job in the best possible way. If you and most people will open up to me. If they don't, then they're not my people and they don't want to work with me. So
Well, you're extremely likable, so that makes sense to me. Uh, Now, when you drop these off, out of 100, how many would actually say, "Yeah, you know, I'd come over for an appointment,"
not
and
very many. I think I'd get like phone calls. Like I said, get phone calls being like, "How did you get my name?" And this is private information. I'd be like, "Oh," and I would just put a handwritten note. Um, I think, I think really it just was the practice. Like I don't, I'm my one of the sayings I use a lot is busy creates busy, right? So if you're, I don't think
it's a
honing your,
tough that's a tough question for me to ask as well. It's a tough question because it's like 17 years ago, right?
yeah, I know the things that I did, but the things were like I think now if I were to go back, like I give advice to young agents all the time. I'm like, just pick a bunch of houses and do evaluations for them. Like, what are they going to do to you if you drop something off? They're not going to be cross with you. Like if there's a
And what would be in these evaluations? You put them in an envelope and then you would just
and a handwritten note that
yeah.
just said, "Hi, I'm so and so," and that what I would actually tell them. So in where I would drop it off. So if somebody's using a lead system like that, I'd say your address came through on my online valuation system. I'm not sure if you submitted your address, but if you did, I just thought you'd like to have this information. If you have any
Mhm.
questions, please let me know. And I'd have a handwritten note and drop off a black. It would be in black and white because I didn't want to pay for color printing if they weren't going to be my clients. But yeah, and I that was something I did. I like again online leads. I do open houses. I know these are all the things that people. My sphere was difficult because I find a sphere is difficult unless like some people do amazing with their sphere. So there's center of influence. They know a ton of people, and those people will support them right away.
Mhm.
But it's difficult as starting out that way because I think like you don't have any experience. So like somebody's competing with you or I and they have no experience in your marketplace, like the only thing they have is time, right? Like they don't have the experience, they don't have the systems in place, they don't have the marketing budgets that we have, but you know, they have the energy and effort. That's what they have. And that's what we had way back when. Our energy and our effort and our my online course, my online leads in your course, like those people,
Yeah.
but investing in ourselves. And a lot of people don't invest in themselves. Like they don't want to spend money to make money. You spent your last 500 bucks,
Yeah.
your last 500 bucks with a new
Yeah.
baby on the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I look back on it now. I'm like, that was crazy. But at the time, it seemed like it was a good thing, good thing to do. But it was a payoff, right? It was a good payoff in the end. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about that. If an individual agent is competing against us, that's a good question. We should, probably talk about. So we're like giving ammo now to the competition, talking out loud. But if I was an individual agent just starting out, I would probably. So that was good. So you got time and energy. So I'm going to be
Yep.
there on your beck and call, right?
Yep.
I would probably talk a little bit about the comp. I'd be hammering on the company. whatever company I'm with, that's where I'd be talking like all the data. It's like, whether it's a Remax or Roll of Page or Coldwell Banker or
Sure.
whatever that
And
is,
that's
right?
and that's what I would do. I would do that back then. I would be like at the time, so when I was at Coldwell, the top producing agents in the city were there and I would leverage that. I'd be like, "Oh, he's number 1 in the country for Coldwell Banker and we as a brokerage are all collective. It's important, right? Because they just changed the TRESA rules. So, like technically we all worked all of our clients, we were all working for the clients. That's what the rules were up
Hmm.
until, until 2 years ago. So I'm like, this is the truth, right? So um, being able to say that they are able to collaborate with those people within your brokerage. It's difficult when you're competing with somebody in the same brand or same office, but if you're not, you absolutely should leverage the agents, like the more successful agents in your office for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that with that, if you're going to start spending money on marketing, I would say that primarily I'd be focusing on your sphere of influence, the people that you know, and anything that is very low cost, but I'd invest some time. So like door knocking, open houses, like I'd be hammering those.
Yeah,
And so what's interesting about you is that you picked one format and you went big in that, right? And I think, Andra, that's one of the biggest things I see with new agents is that they get overwhelmed with too many things instead of picking 1 to 3 things. Now, when you start doing more business, like we have more than 3 different channels, like we have many different channels that we generate leads in, but because we're leveraged and we have a full team, like we have a full team of with pretty much 40 people that are doing all these different lead channels, right? And so that's where as an individual agent, I'd be focusing on something that is more time, less money, and focusing more on sphere where, it's you have a relationship, whereas maybe a top agent doesn't have that same relationship.
for sure. I think, yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think, and some people are amazing at their sphere. Like some people get their they're launched by their sphere, which I love that for them. But my advice is always don't be sad when your friends don't pick you. Don't be don't be sad.
Well, I tell our agents is like, listen, if a friend or family member is saying they're going to buy a house, like go there and treat them as good or better than all of your other clients. As in, don't just like assume that they're going to call you when they're ready to go to buy a house. It's like you're going in, you're doing a full presentation, you're treating them like every other client and give them the red carpet because I've seen that before. It's like, well, they didn't call me. I'm like, well, did you go over there and do your listing presentation? It's like, well, no, but I was like, it's like you got to go there and you got to sell them on it because they see you as a friend versus their professional or their guide, right?
Yeah.
And that's where, like, for example, I had a buddy, super smart business guy, like super successful, and he's like, yeah, I've been looking with this other agent, and I'm thinking, he's like, I've been looking for this waterfront. This is a number of years ago. I was thinking, Tim, like, man, like you know what you should let me come over and show you what we do. He's like, I don't know, I'm kind of like been working with this agent for a while. I'm like, well, have you signed anything? He's like, no, it's kind of loose. She's kind of showing me properties from time to time. I'm like, just let me come over. I'm coming over. Put the coffee on. I'm coming. And, so I come in and I set the presentation up and I do a walkthrough and I'm like hardcore. He is going to be my client. Right. And I set it up. I go through the whole thing, and we're kind of like first little bit. He's just kind of like, yeah, hey, Mark, buddy, and then we start getting into the presentation. I'm going hardcore. Like, here's all the points. Here's the process. Here's what we're going to do. And, asking all the right questions, right? Getting understanding what's important to him. And by the end, I'm like going in for the close, right? You're coming on as a client, like sign here. And he's like, holy geez. He's like, didn't expect this. And what was interesting is I called him the next day because he was looking for like a year or two. I called him the next day. I said, I think I got this property here for you based on what you told me. I think this is actually a really good one. I came and it was like, it was this big waterfront and I did. And he bought the deal and then I got the listing, but it was because I treated him not as, although he was a friend, I treated him as a client, the way that a client should be treated. And I changed the relationship from friendship zone to, okay, I trust him as a guide. And there's almost like you got to put your cape on and show them that you're trustworthy and that you're a market expert, right? But you got to like mentally, you got to be intentional about that.
For sure. And I think that what you said too, a market expert, like I think that's one of the most important things about what we do. I think we should be experts in our fields.
For sure. And I love how you, with the market reviews that you were doing, the CMAs, you got really good at them over time. And so that's a really interesting thing, is like there's mastery and repetition. And so that's why it's like cold calling, it's like if you're not good with people, go have 1,000 conversations. You're not good at doing a CMA, go drop off 1,000 CMAs, comparative market analysis or home evaluations, however you want to call them, right? Go do 1,000 of them and you'll just naturally get really good at it, right?
That's right. Practice makes perfect. They do say that. That's actually a saying, right? I think people, you have to put the hard work in. Like I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
There's no, it's called work because it's work, right? Like it's not called like it's really lovely and fun. I love what we do. I find it fascinating. I think it's fun. It allows me to be my whole self all the time. But it's still, work is work. You have to, like, that is just a thing. It's called work because it's work.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just show up and have a coffee and talk about working. It's like, no, we're coming in and working. And it's interesting. I've seen the top agents from when I started to even now. The top agents come in and they're on mission when they're in the office, right? They're not shooting. They'll say hello to you, be friendly, courteous, but at the end of the day, they're not like at the coffee machine all day long chatting it up with the secretaries, right? They're very intentional when they go in, and they just get, it's like not even close the amount of work, how much extra work they'll get done. They'll get like 10x more done than somebody else in less time. And the best example I've seen of this is Will Smith in Pursuit of Happiness. You know how he did way more in less time because he had to go pick up his kid. It's the same, I think, in for top agents. It's like they're coming into the office and they're extremely intentional when they're coming in and they're doing actual work versus like getting ready to do the actual work. Okay, so let's get into you have a real strength in marketing. So I want to hear a little bit more about what is it that sets you apart from, say, when you started till now. What have you implemented in that your clients are really appreciating about how you're marketing properties and then marketing yourself?
So I think let's start with my brand. I think it's probably because here my brand is, and you wouldn't know it if you don't live in Guelph, but I'm known. I'm the lady with the glasses. My face isn't anywhere. There's a pair of glasses. Our logo is here to help, or Andra Arnold and Associates with a pair of glasses. And that started with I wear glasses. I have lots of pairs of glasses, but I had this photo way back when, and I came out of my car multiple times, and I get into my car and people be like, you wear glasses, which I think is a weird thing for people to tell you. But then they'd be like, and they're like, you don't look like your picture. And I'm like, and then I take my glasses off and like, oh, you do look like your picture. And I'm like, that's so weird. And so and then people would judge me by the way I look. So what I would get was, you're much nicer than we thought you would be. Right. They're like, these are like the funniest things. So I was like, okay, I had been doing, like, my brand kind of evolved in my 4th or 5th year. And what happened was we decided I was going to have just a pair of glasses. My face wasn't going to go anything anymore. And that turned into, well, what else can we do that I'm like, if we have to market, so like just sold cards. Like I think most big agents, they farm, or more like top agents, not big, successful agents, they'll farm. And I'm like, I don't want to send out any postcards that say, oh, I'm number one and I'm this and I'm that, because I'm like, that's dumb. And who cares? Who cares if I'm number one, if I'm like, who cares about that? So we decided to start putting local art on cards. So if we sell a house, we'll put out a postcard with a local artist on it. On the other side, it will be like a little bit of us selling a house, and it'll have all of the artist's information on it. So instead of, and before it was art, which is so funny because I haven't thought about this forever. Before it was art, it was like saying, so one of them was, you're the reason why people smile, or the world's a better place because you're in it. Like, I actually forgot I did those. That's what it started with. It was started with these like lovely quotes to put a smile on somebody's face. And then it turned into the art. And so the art then turned into an art contest. And so all of our buses in town, or the back of buses, they're actually art from their art from a like we have an art contest every year, and then local artists get a year on the back of the bus, and it just says brought to you by us with our little glasses on it. So you get postcards that match the bus ads, and it's giving back to the community and bringing like beauty into the community. Well, I'm not bringing it because I'm not the artist, but the artists allow us to share their beauty, and so that's kind of our brand. We're known for that, and it's just become a thing in our community. And as far as advertising for our clients, I think a lot of our clients, they resonate with that. So they resonate with the fact that, you know, we work on making their houses beautiful. So we have a full staging, we do all of that stuff, but we also position their houses in the same manner. We want them to be like, we want them to be beautiful and pretty. It's regardless if they're the smallest house or a giant house, we want them all to feel the same and be proud of what we present out to it. So like there's some consistency across that. I don't know, like there's so many things I can talk about. Like we make it, like we, all of the things we do are very fluid with one another. So they all align. So like even our gifts and our branding, like our name doesn't go on anything. It's just a pair of glasses. We try our best to like, we want people to think of us without us having to put our faces or our names in their home for them. So, and it works. Like I have people who send me pictures of like pairs of glasses from all over. Like when there was this pair of glasses on Marketplace that's for sale, and like, I don't know where it's for sale, but like 6 people sent me these giant pair of glasses and like, you need to have this. I'm like, that's funny that they're like, so it's a thing, right? So you want to be top of mind, but you also, I think it also, I don't know. I think it's so strange. I don't like, this is the part where I'm like at a loss for words. I don't really
No,
love talking
so
about this.
creating a brand, like I really believe that every agent has, there's something uncommon about them, and there's like an advantage that they have. And so, you know, for me, it was my hockey background with, you know, I was always going full out in my approach, and I love to win. So I was like super highly competitive.
Yeah.
And so that's where full out came from. Full out for you is like, that's an approach. It's an approach. Joanna's like, you're always going full out in hockey, full out in real estate. We should be full out for you. And that's our slogan, right? But is because there was we'll call it a unique advantage or something that's uncommon about me. I think that every real estate agent has that. And so with you with the glasses, what I think that is so smart. And I can see, because I mean, for me anyways, when I see glasses, there's in the back of my mind, like I think smart. Somebody's smart. And so, but you would probably, with the glasses, I would think that your core client would resonate. They might have glasses and they might be like, oh, she's like me. And because people like others that are like them as well. And so that's where, when you're creating a brand, it all starts with your uncommon advantage, something like that's different or unique about yourself. And it stacks on top of that. And so that's what you've been able to do. And I would think that, you know, your client, your core client is super attracted, and your whole value proposition is based around, you know, your brand promises, everything is based around all your marketing around that, the uncommon advantage that you do have, or the differentiator. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, I do think so. And we're able to, like, because I'm not bound by that's the other thing. I'm not bound by my face, which I think is, which I love that some people are. I think I've talked, I think it's amazing. But I think that by not being bound by my face, I have the ability to bring other things to the community, right? So like they recognize it, and then I can do something completely different, which contributes to, like, because we have a larger art community here. Like, I just think I don't know. I just want to be able to bring, like, I don't need somebody to be, I don't know that my face is going to bring a giant smile to somebody's face, but I do know a beautiful piece of art on the back of the bus is going to bring a giant smile to somebody's face.
Would you say when you, if you were to say classify or describe your core client, that the type of client that's most attracted to you, can you identify that? How would you explain who that person would be?
I think that the most, like, 95% of my clients are just super kind. Like, I don't, and I'm not saying that everybody else's clients aren't kind, but like, I just, they just are kind. They're aligned. Like, they, so there's another thing that I expect of my clients. I want some type of emotional collateral from my clients. I want to be, we spend so much time away from our families and away from the people that, like, I love my clients, but our loved ones, like, I started it when my kids were small, and I would say this to my clients, and I still say it. If we're going to spend time together, we have to care about one another, because because time is the only thing that's limited in our life, right? Like, it's the only thing that truly matters is time. And um, if we share emotional collateral, and we're anyways, that's one of the things I expect from them. So all my clients are willing to share some of themselves with me, and I think that that's the common thing.
Yeah, that's great. And your core client would really resonate with that, right? Where, some other agents that are like super aggressive, they'll appeal to other clients as
100%.
well.
And that's awesome. I love that, because it takes all kinds, right?
Yeah,
We're not for everybody, and you can't have every
that's right.
client. It's impossible.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where I think the big takeaway here, I think that if you're for the listeners, is be different. And whatever you are, like, shine a spotlight on that and build your whole brand around what makes you different. And it doesn't really even matter what it is, as long as it's different. Because if you just try and do everything else, or you try and copy somebody, or worse, do something that you're not, it will bleed through. Like, and people will
100%.
smell that. And so that's where, when you're selecting what that is for you, try and find a core client, or a type of client that you most like hanging around with, you most like serving, and ideally that can afford to own a home. And if you can find that core client and align that with your um, what differentiates you, like your unique advantage, and then you offer brand promises that sit almost like right in the middle of the two circles. You have your brand promises, and that sit right in between there, and that you constantly talk to what is both important to you and your clients. Man, it separates you and differentiates you from the rest of the marketplace, which, in this world of we'll just say massive distraction, uh, being different is the only way that you can be noticed, right? So I love how you're differentiating yourself there. Now, before we move on, you have 360 5-star Google reviews right now. What's your tactic to get those? Like, is there, at the end of the sale, you just ask them and send them the link, or is there any sort of like um, approach that you do to be able to get the Google review at the end of the transaction?
I actually usually start my interview telling them that's what I expect at the end.
Yeah,
Um,
good, good, very good.
like, I'm like, so when you pick me, like, we're gonna, like, at the end, we're gonna, like, obviously I'm gonna have to do a good job, but I'm gonna expect a 5-star Google review at the end. Like, I am very forward when I ask that. But what I'm hopefully I'm setting the it so that we can provide that, right? So we do provide, like, obvious, and they're all like, you can call every one of those people, like, they're not just like, they're not just like a 5-star and that's it. Like, everybody writes something. There's lots of stories in there that people are willing to share. So but I have no problem asking. Isn't that one of the first things that they tell us like, they told me way back when, ask for testimonials, ask for a review. And people don't want to ask for them. I always blame it on my marketing guy, though. So I have my website guy, or way back when, or I would just make it up. At the time, I didn't have a marketing guy. I'd be
Right.
like, my marketing person said I have to ask for this because you haven't done it yet. Like, I'll ask again.
Yeah, however you got to get them is fine. I think that's great. And I think the fact that you set the expectation at the beginning is smart. And so another thing that you could do to stack on top of that is, just so we're on the same page, my mission is to do such a great job for you that by the time that sold sign comes up, that you introduced me to one of your friends thinking about buying and selling. So you can ask for set this Google review stage, and you
And
can
ask for a
actually,
client.
sorry.
And ask for a client. I don't do
Yeah.
that, Steve. I'm not sure I will do that, but but
It's
you
like
could.
the mission is like you're gonna be so wowed, so completely like, oh my goodness, blown away that you're gonna have to go tell your friends and family about how good of a job that we did for you. That's my mission. It's like, ooh, okay. I think setting expectation is good. Just like with goal setting, I love how you write down your goals. I think a lot of agents out there are scared, and I actually did a podcast on that, just talking about setting goals and the power of writing them down. But I think a lot of agents actually get scared by setting expectation because it now holds them accountable to actually deliver on it.
But you need to be like, I think that that's probably one of the biggest thing is accountability, right? Like
Mhm.
I think top performers do hold themselves accountable, right? Like I if I don't get, like, I make lists, like you have to get things done. Like, and if you're not growing, like I in my brain this, if you're not growing, you're shrinking.
Yeah, so true.
Right.
So
And I
true.
don't want to shrink. We only have so much time. Like there's stuff for us still to learn. I don't ever want to stop learning. I don't want to ever stop growing. Like, and I don't mean just real estate, but like as a human, we only have this amount of time here to grow and to learn and to like be just a little bit better the next day.
Yeah.
We're not, right? So
Yeah, no, and that's so true. And even for that's important when you start, but it's especially important as you become more and more successful. Because I was reading this Brian Tracy book, and he was talking about that success is like you have a bucket full of sand. So all the sand represents all the learning and growth and everything that you've done up until this point. But he said that there's a hole in the bottom of the bucket, and sand is slowly seeping out. And he said, unless you keep filling up the bucket with more knowledge and insights and mastermind, this conversation is an example. Listening to the podcast is another example. Like you're taking in great counsel and insight and ideas. He said, as soon as you stop taking in great ideas, that sand starts to fall out, and eventually your sand falls, and that's your earning potential. And so that's like it's an ongoing thing. And then obviously there's execution part in taking action on what you're learning as well. But I thought that was a really good reference that I recently read about. Um, Very cool. Well, investing. So you've now been in the business for many years. You would have helped many, multimillionaires. You've been in real estate for many years as well. So a real estate agent that's now starting to make really good money, and they have some dollars there. They're like, what should I invest in? What kind of recommendation, what advice would you give that agent?
so I like I invest mostly into my clients. That's where I spend most of my money. Like I do have some marketing, like the buses and that, like everybody has a bus ad, but I want to do something where it's fun. But we spend a lot on getting our listings prepared. I think we invest a lot of money there. So, but I think if you're getting some money and you're trying to establish yourself, I guess it depends on who you are. It depends on who you are, right? Because there are people who are super social and love their clients. I would say invested in doing client appreciations, um, like I did. We do Christmas gifts for every client we've ever worked with. There's something ever worked with. We drop something off. If you're within driving distance, you get a Christmas gift every year. Even if you sold a house 17 years ago, that's something that I do. It's the largest investment I put in. I don't think everybody should do that, but I think investing in your clients is probably number one.
Hmm.
And then also once you figure out what your brand is. So like what you said, you figured out, like, how quickly did you get that full? Can I ask that? I'm going to ask you your full out. When did that
It
come?
was
How
pretty early in the process. Joanna has a marketing background, so I was very blessed there at the beginning of the career. We were like, she's like, we need like a tagline. We need something there to build the brand around. And we were just spitballing it. I remember the blue tile in the kitchen in our first townhome, and it just came from, yeah. So that was back. I'd probably say 2008. So probably about a year in.
Okay, so you'd started working. My advice always is to young agents or people is, you don't establish your brand until you start working, unless you really know, because you don't know who you're going to be in this business, right? You don't really know who and how you're going to evolve in this business until you're actually working, because I think that is a huge like that was huge too. I didn't know who I was. Like I said to you, I stunk and thought it was going to be easy. And then I was like, forget it. This isn't easy. Like, I really need to figure out who and what I want to be. And then everything else came from that. And so I would say probably invest in your clients first, because they're your best, like, I don't like return on investment. I don't even like that, because I don't think of my clients that way. I think that just they've supported you and they've already chosen to work with you, and the fact that you're giving back to them shows them how much you appreciate them, and therefore they'll appreciate you more. I think that that's really what that looks like. And then, it depends too. Like, if you're the agent where you're like, I do want to have 1,000 buses, like Faisal Suzwal, he, like, that dude, he's everywhere. Like, he's everywhere around here. Number one agent, Remax agent in the world, right? So he's on the side of all the buses. That's awesome that he's on the side of all the buses and everywhere in Kitchener and Cambridge. But that's his thing, right? Like, that has to be important to him. So I think it depends, because if it's really important for you to be a bit more flashy, like, I don't know, that's wrong. I still drive a Dodge Caravan. I want to tell you that too. I think that's important for you to know. I'm getting maybe a new Sienna, but I've always I've had 5 Dodge Caravans and I still drive it now. And if they made one, I'd still get a Dodge Caravan, because I think that's who I am in this business. Like, I'm the aunt or the cousin who's showing up. So.
I think that works for your brand though too. I think based on everything that you're talking about. I mean, there's different reasons for that, but I think it would work for you. It's interesting with the van. I tried for years to get Joanna to buy one.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I was like, when the kids were younger, I mean, those things are people movers.
They sure are.
My younger brother has 5 kids, and we were kind of laughing about it because we had the stroller, and when I test drove, I brought the stroller along, and I didn't even fold it up. I was like, hey, Joanna, look at this. Look, I can pick up the stroller and throw it right in. I don't even need to fold the stroller, right? And she's like, I took her for a test drive and whatnot, and she didn't bite. But I just think that at the end of the day, pick whatever it is that you want, do it, but then own it. I think ultimately is what's most important.
And I think that's what, when you're talking about investing in, like, I think it really depends on who you are and what you want to be in this business. And I do think, and there's all ranges of people, right? Like, because we all serve different people.
Yeah, so good. All right, you ready for the rapid fire part of the talk?
Okay, well, I don't know what that is, but okay.
Okay, well, it's going to be super simple, straightforward. First question, what book made the biggest impact in your career?
Oh, I hate this. Oh, I've got 2. And I hate the one book. I don't even like it, but it's such a good book. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Okay.
And it's a terrible book, but you got to read it, especially if you really highly effective people. It's true. And the other one is 50 Life Lessons.
Okay.
So
50 life lessons. What would be the biggest takeaway about that one?
50 Life Lessons. I love, so they're all short stories that are pertinent to life. So like, one is like, you should never be in a relationship that's a secret. Life isn't fair, but it's good. It's okay to be angry with God. Like, they're really pay off all your credit card debt. They're easy to read. They're relevant to all aspects of life. And I just think that.
So quick note on the credit card. So Joanna sent me this, the odd time she'll send me from Instagram, she'll send me a video. And there's this one that I recently watched. I'm going off topic on the book here, but I thought this is worthy to share. And apparently when we always got into a habit of paying off our credit cards, right? But what I didn't know was the fact, now when I was younger, I mean, we maxed ours out. So we'll just say that I played both sides of the fence when it comes to credit cards. But what was interesting is that if you only pay off, so let's just say you have $1,000 that you put on a credit card and you pay off $999 before the grace period's over, right? And you leave $1 left on that card, apparently you pay interest on the full $1,000.
You sure do.
If you don't pay it off. I didn't know that. You seem to have known that. I don't know. You're financially way further ahead than I am on that. I thought, oh,
You're too busy selling houses. You're not worried about that or building empires. You're too busy doing that. Somebody else is
well,
worried.
hopefully me learning that lesson, hopefully will maybe help a few other agents listening right now that
Yeah.
can figure that out. Like at the end of the day, if you just make sure to pay it all off, you're not going to be paying on the full. I just thought that was that was a good nugget. There was a good video. Sometimes she'll show me like cat videos or something funny videos. I thought that one was helpful. All
That
right.
is super helpful.
So next question is 3 words that people around you would describe you as.
Oh. It depends which that's a hard question. I would say truthful, kind, and I don't know. I don't like that. This is not a fun
You got
game.
one more. I got to get one more from you. Come on. What would you say
Uh,
if you were to say one more?
oh, happy.
Yeah.
I think people would say I'm
Okay,
happy.
you made it. That's good. Yeah. Perfect. Kind, truthful, and happy. Perfect. All right. And last question is what final advice would you give the listeners? Maybe it's an agent that's just starting off, or maybe it's an agent that wants to grow their business to the next level. What advice would you give them that could make the biggest impact in their career?
Don't give up. Just don't give up. I think a lot of people give up. They can do it. I know it's hard. And push through the suck. Push through the suck. You can do it. You can push through the suck. Because I think it's worth it. It's worth it if you really want it. So
I love that. I push through the suck. I think I'm going to put that one in my pocket and use that in the future. All right. So how can the agents that are listening, say if they want to refer anybody to the Guelph area, how could they reach out to you and send you business?
Oh, easy. It's easy to find me, Andra Arnold, andraarnold.com. I'm pretty sure that's my Instagram handle. It might be Guelph Realtor. That's how old my Instagram handle is. But yeah, just Andra Arnold. You can Google me. You can reach me directly. My cell phone's on if you called the Google number, you're going to talk to me on the telephone. It's me who picks up the phone, not a machine or the office. So that's still how I do my business. So
very cool. Well, Andra, thanks again for coming on the show. You did a really great job. This was time flew by here. So really appreciate you.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. If you like the show, please share and subscribe to the channel. I love you guys and keep on going full out.